Jimmy Butler scored 5 points, and it still gave Golden State exactly what it needed. Welcome back to Sports Lab 100. I'm documenting one game per player till I reach 100. Today's player is Jimmy Butler. Still feels a little strange to say in a Warriors episode. Jimmy Butler was a Bull, briefly a Timberwolf, but loudly. He was briefly a Sixer, importantly. Then he became the face of the whole Miami Heat personality. But in February 2025, Jimmy Butler became a Golden State Warrior. And this game, against the Orlando Magic, is not the obvious Jimmy Butler episode. He didn't score 30. He didn't take over the fourth quarter scoring. He didn't do that big playoff Jimmy thing where the whole room starts looking nervous. He scored 5 points. That should make this a bad choice. Instead, makes my point cleaner. Because Golden State didn't trade for Jimmy Butler just to get another guy who could score. The Warriors needed another adult possession. They needed pressure, defense, free throws, decisions, and someone who could make the game feel less frantic when Steph Curry wasn't personally solving every problem. In this game, Steph did solve a lot of problems. He scored 56. Jimmy still mattered. The official game date is February 27th, 2025. Golden State came in at 32-27. Orlando came in at 29-32. The records make both teams sound more ordinary than they really were. The Warriors are trying to prove the Butler trade changed the shape of their season. They'd already been hot since adding him, but this was still the experimental phase. You could still see the idea, but the idea had to survive real games. Golden State wasn't rebuilding. You don't rebuild while Steph Curry is still playing like himself. But they're not the old machine anymore either. Klay Thompson's gone. The West, crowded. The Warriors have young pieces, veteran pieces, and a familiar system, but they needed something heavier. Jimmy's supposed to be that. Orlando's in a different place. The Magic are young, big, and serious. Paolo Banchero was already too good to discuss like a future star. Franz Wagner was already a real co-star. Jamal Mosley had them defending and competing, and Orlando had the kind of size that can make Golden State uncomfortable. So the setup is simple. The Magic, they're trying to become something. The Warriors are trying to stay something. And Jimmy Butler is standing right in the middle of Golden State's answer. Jimmy Butler's career is one of the best modern examples of a player refusing the role he was assigned. He came through Tyler Junior College, then Marquette, went 30th overall to Chicago in 2011. At first, he looked like a defensive wing, tough guy, minutes guy, somebody useful. Then he kept adding things. The handle got better, strength became a weapon, the free throw eventually became a business model, the mid-range game became a pressure point, and eventually the confidence stopped looking like confidence, started looking like a policy. Chicago got the rise, Minnesota got the confrontation, Philadelphia got the chapter people still look back on and say, maybe they should have kept him, but Miami got the mythology. The bubble finals, the 2023 8-seed finals run, the playoff explosions, the stare, the coffee, the country music, the general sense that Jimmy Butler might be joking, might be testing you, or might be preparing to ruin your evening. Then Miami fell apart. By early 2025, that relationship was no longer tense. It was broken. Golden State got him in a massive deadline deal, and the question wasn't whether Jimmy could still play. The question was whether he could help this Warriors team specifically. Because he's not coming in to replace Steph. He's coming in to make Steph's team less fragile. That's why this game works. 5 points looks small. The role wasn't. And the game starts terribly for Golden State. Orlando opens on a 9-0 run. Not a slow start. Banchero scores. Cole Anthony hits a 3. The Magic are bigger, sharper, more comfortable. Golden State's first basket comes from Curry, and the assist comes from Butler. Jimmy's not scoring, but he's already connecting the machine. With Steph Curry, getting him the ball in rhythm, it's not a side chore. It's the oxygen supply. Orlando keeps control through the first half. Banchero is too big for some matchups and too skilled for others. Franz Wagner gives him another creator, and Wendell Carter Jr. gives him size inside. The Magic lead by 11 after one quarter and push the margin as high as 17. Near halftime, Carter hits a shot that seems to put the final stamp on a dominant Orlando half. Then Curry launches from about half court. Goes in. Golden State's still down 66-52 at the break, so that shot doesn't fix the scoreboard, but it changes the room just a little bit. That's the annoying thing about Steph Curry if you're the other team. Because even when you're winning, he can make the whole game feel unsafe. The third quarter is where everything flips. The Warriors tighten defensively. Draymond Green gets more involved with Banchero. Jimmy spends more time around Franz. Quentin Post becomes important. He hits his shots, cuts, and gives Golden State just enough spacing to make Orlando account for another body. Then Steph goes nuclear. Curry scores 22 in the third quarter by himself. Orlando scored 21 as a team. Jimmy's role in that quarter is not loud, but it's real. He finds Curry, helps the ball move. He defends. He later assists Moses Moody on the buzzer-beating three that sends Golden State into the fourth up 92-87. A 14-point halftime deficit becomes a 5-point lead after three. That's the Warriors' whole old nightmare package, arriving with a new piece attached. The start of the fourth matters because Steph sits. For late-stage Golden State, these minutes can feel like walking across a frozen lake and hearing something crack. But the Warriors hold. Jimmy gets to the line. Post blocks a shot. Moody gets to the line. Brandon Podziemski scores, and the game doesn't collapse. That's part of why Jimmy was there. Orlando still comes back. Banchero's too good for the game to simply end. The Magic cut it to 108-104 with less than 3 minutes remaining. Then Jimmy finds Steph for another three. That possession is the episode in miniature. Jimmy touches the game. Steph ends the sentence. Orlando gets it back to 111-109. Curry answers with another pull-up three. Then, with about a minute left, Curry misses a shot that should have given Orlando the ball with a chance to make it a one-possession game. Jimmy, instead, gets the offensive rebound. That's the 5-point game right there. That's why the box score can't fully explain it. Golden State closes from there. Draymond grabs another offensive rebound. Curry makes some free throws. Gary Payton, too, blocks Cole Anthony, and Jimmy adds late free throws. Final, Warriors 121, Magic 115. Steph Curry finishes with 56 points and 12 three-pointers. Paolo Banchero scores 41. Jimmy Butler finishes the night with 5 points, 7 assists, 4 rebounds, 2 blocks. Somehow, that's still a Jimmy Butler game. Not the headline version, the stabilizer version. After the game, the obvious reaction was about Steph. You don't score 56 on the road, hit 12 threes, and outscore the other team by yourself in the third quarter without becoming the main story. Trying to make this anything other than a Curry masterpiece would be false. But Jimmy's post-game comments are exactly why this episode belongs here. He talked about how watching Steph like that makes everybody want to defend better, because if you get him the ball back, he might do something crazy with it. That's a clean Warriors thought. Not give me the ball, it's get him the ball. Defend, rebound, survive the possession, and let the impossible player touch the game. Jimmy also joked, basically, that Steph doing ridiculous things, it's not even shocking anymore. That's funny, but it's also true in a way that makes Steph hard to discuss. He's normalized the abnormal. Steph Curry has changed the way that children practice basketball. Think about it. The coverage framed it the same way. Curry was the star. Butler is the new co-star, still figuring out the room. The Warriors now had won 7 of 8 since the trade, and the idea is starting to look like a good one. Starting to feel real. And not complete, but real. Golden State kept turning the Butler trade into a real season. The Warriors finished 48-34 and landed in the play-in. Then Jimmy had one of those games that makes the whole trade make sense. 38 points against Memphis to help secure the 7 seed. In the first round, Golden State beat Houston in 7. That series was tense, physical, and very much not comfortable. Perfect for Jimmy, honestly. Then came Minnesota. The Warriors won Game 1, but Steph Curry's hamstring injury changed the series. Without Steph fully available, the ceiling dropped fast. Golden State lost to the Timberwolves in 5 games. That's the honest ending. The Butler trade made them dangerous. Didn't make them safe. Orlando's ending was more developmental. The Magic finished at 41-41, won the Southeast Division, and reached the playoffs as the 7th seed in the East. Boston beat him in 5. Sounds flat, but it wasn't nothing. Banchero and Franz were real. The defense, the size, those are real. The Magic's just not finished yet. This game showed both sides of that. Orlando had enough talent to lead by 17. They didn't yet have enough control to keep a veteran team from stealing the temperature of the whole game. Jimmy's Warriors chapter after this game stays interesting and frustrating. In the short term, he gave Golden State what it wanted. Not every night was pretty, because Jimmy Butler basketball, not always pretty. Sometimes it's slow, and sometimes it's heavy. But that's the point. Golden State already had beauty. Jimmy gave them friction. He also gave them a second way to get through a playoff possession. With Steph, the Warriors could levitate. With Jimmy, they could grind too. That combination's good enough to win a play-in game, beat Houston, and make Minnesota sweat before Curry's injury changed the math. Then the next season turned cruel. In January 26, Jimmy tore the ACL in his right knee against Miami of all teams and was ruled out for the rest of the season. The Warriors' Jimmy story is still unfinished. This game, though, is a complete little chapter. Shows why the trade made sense. Not because Jimmy scored, because Golden State looked sturdier with him. Next up, we leave the Warriors and go back to baseball. Astro 52's Yainer Diaz, April 1st, 2024. That's a catcher episode, which means it automatically comes with extra homework. Catchers don't just hit. They carry a pitching staff, manage a game, absorb blame, and then, if they can also hit, everybody starts asking if they can be part of the next version of the whole franchise. With Yainer Diaz, that's the question. Not just, can this guy play? More like, how much of the next Astros team is already here? So that's next time. So, Warrior 27, Jimmy Butler, 5 points. That's the joke. It's also the lesson. Because sometimes basketball tempts us to treat the box score like the whole story. Sometimes it is. Steph scoring 56 is not exactly a hidden secret. Paolo Banchero scoring 41 is not a footnote either. But Jimmy Butler's value in this game lives between the numbers. The early assist, the defensive assignments, the fourth quarter stability, the late offensive rebound, the willingness to stand next to Steph Curry and make the correct play instead of forcing the game to prove that he was still a star. Because the Warriors didn't need Jimmy to become the sun. What they needed from him was to help the orbit hold. I'm documenting one game per player until I reach 100. This was Warrior 27. This was Jimmy Butler. And this was the night 5 points still mattered. Thanks for watching.